Hello, we are from Group 5. Today, we are going to discuss an important topic in public administration and governance, which is public policy failure. Public policies are created to solve public problems and improve people's lives. However, not all policies work as expected. Some policies fail to achieve their goals, and in some cases, they even create new problems for society. In this video, we will explore what public policy failure means, why it matters, and examine a real case study of flooding in Sumatra as an example of public policy failure. We will also discuss the key stakeholders, supporting data, relevant theories, and possible solutions.
In general, a public policy parallel case study refers to a systematic analysis of a public policy that does not achieve its intended objectives or products negative outcomes for society. According to Thomas Day, public policy is defined as whatever government chose to do or not to do. Based on this definition, public policy parallels occurs when government action or this vision are effective in solving public problems or even worse as exceptions condition. Public policy parallels does not only happen when a policy is harmfully absent, but also when a policy exists yet falls in practice. This failure can occur in many forms, such as inefficient program, waste resource, social conflict, or environmental damage. Meanwhile, House and Ramos explained that public policy parallel can occur at different stages of the public process. This can include a public formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. A case study approach helps us understand the institutional, political, social, and environmental factors that cause the policy to divert from its original goals. Through case studies, policymaker, and social and learn available listen improve power policy.
Public policy failures matter because their impact are often wide and long-lasting. First, policy failure result in the waste of public research, including government budgets, time, and human effort. This research could have been used more effectively to address urgent public needs. Second, failed policy can create social destruction. Communities may suffer from economic losses, displacement, or reduced access to essential services.
Third, public policy failure reduces public trust. When people see that government policies do not work or cause harm, their confidence in public institutions declines. Finally, policy failures also have a political consequence, such as public protest, loss of legitimacy, and declining government credibility. Case studies from rent control problem to failed anti-poverty programs show that policy failures often result from unclear objectives, weak political commitment, poor coordination, or a lack of understanding of complex social and environmental contexts. Therefore, studying policy failure is critical for better governance and policy making.
The background of public failure usually comes from a mismatch between policy objective and actual outcome. In many cases, these failures is influenced by both internal and external factors. Internal factors originate from the policy formulation and implementation process itself. Weak policy planning that is not supported by correct data and governance analysis often result in unsuccessful policy goals. In addition, limited human resource capacity when within the background of coordination among implementing action and ineffective monitoring and evaluation system for train their policy information. As a result, police deviate from their original plans and fail to achieve their intended target.
External factors come from outside the government system. These include low public participation, weak public acceptance, and insufficient policy socialization. And second, resistance from certain interest groups, political pressure, changing socio-economic condition, and also unpredictable environmental dynamic also affect policy effectiveness. Together, this external challenge make policies difficult to implement optimally, and prejudge their ability to deliver meaningful benefits to society.
Key stakeholder. In the case of flooding in Sumatra, several key stakeholders are deployed. These include central or local government responsible for policymaking and implementation, and private sector actors, especially those involved in land use and extractive activities, and local indigenous communities who are directly affected by flooding, and non-governmental organizations which often advocate for environmental protection, and academic institution providing research and cause analysis, and international organizations supporting disaster management and climate resilience. Each stakeholder has different level of influence, responsibility, and interest in flood management and policy outcomes.
Empirical data clearly show the serious impact of flooding in Sumatra, according to the National Disaster Management Against TB and TB. As of 16 December 2025, the total number of fatalities caused by flash flood and landslide in Aceh, West Sumatra, and North Sumatra reached 1,053. In addition, reports from BBC News Indonesia reports extensive damage to public infrastructure. These include hundreds of bridges, healthy facilities, educational institutions, house of worship, government buildings, and more than 1,000 public facilities. This level of destruction confirms that flooding has not only caused humanitarian losses, but also significantly slowed economic growth in the affected regions. This fact highlights the urgency of evaluating public policy failures related to disaster prevention and environmental governance.
To better understand this case, we can use the policy implementation failure theory and good governance theory. Policy implementation failure occurs when a policy is well designed on paper but poorly executed in practice. This often happens due to weak coordination, lack of enforcement, and insufficient institutional capacity. Meanwhile, good governance theory emphasizes principles such as transparency, accountability, participation, effectiveness, and rule of law. When these principles are weak, policies are more likely to fail. In the Sumatra flood case, weak enforcement of environmental regulation and lack of participatory governance contribute significantly to policy failure.
Flooding in Sumatra is frequently used as a case study of public policy failure because it exposed the gap between policy formulation and implementation. Despite the extension of environmental regulation and special planning, policy flooding continues to occur repeatedly. This indicates weak enforcement and effective governance. Several police and government failures can be identified. First, massive division and land commission have a record for its ability to obstruct water in stretching through the risk.
Second, the issuance of business permits for plantation, mining, and logging in disaster-prone areas reflect weak government oversight and law enforcement. Third, risk-based spatial planning has not been properly implemented. Settlements along riverbanks and flood-prone zones worsen the impact of floods. Lastly, long-term mitigation and early warning system remain inadequate and poorly communicated to vulnerable communities.
Solution. To address this policy failure, several solutions can be proposed. First, forest rehabilitation and reforestation in upstream watershed areas are essential to preserve natural water absorption function. And second, the moratorium on new permits for land plantation, mining, and logging in protect and flood-prone areas should be strictly enforced. Third, local and indigenous communities must be actively involved in forest and river management. They possess valuable local knowledge. Finally, strengthening governance, health, transparency, accountability, and continuous monitoring is crucial to ensure policies are implemented effectively and sustainably.
forcing. Second, in conclusion, the flooding in Sumatra demonstrates how public policy failure can result from weak governance, poor enforcement, and lack of coordination among stakeholders. By learning from this case, governments can improve future policy and build more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable public system. Thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone, respected lecturers and fellow students. Today, we would like to present our discussion on local government transparency and accountability issues, with a focus on public information disclosure in Sukabumi City. As students of public administration, we are taught that transparency and accountability are fundamental principles in governance. These principles are essential to ensure that government policy, program, and public budget can be monitored and evaluated by society.
Information score is an essential part of transparency and accountability in local government. In Indonesia, this principle is regularly under Law Number 14 of 2008 on public information discourse, which obligates government institutions to provide open access to public information. In Sukabumi City, public information discourse is implemented through the Public Information and Documentation Officer, or the PPID. Through this mechanism, the local government provides information related to public policy, government programs, and the use of a public budget. This allows the public to monitor government performance and support the realization of good government.
Why the issue matters? The issue of public information disclosure is important because it directly affects public trust in local government. When information is delivered openly and clearly, citizens can better understand government, policy, and decision. Transparency also encourages public participation in overseeing governance. Conversely, limited to access information can lead to public suspicion, criticism, and low civic participation. Therefore, transparency is a key foundation of accountability in local governance.
The background of public information disclosure issues in Sukabumi City areas from in the public demand for transparent and accountable local government. Citizens expect clear access to information related to public policy, development programs, and local budget issues. Public information disclosure function as a control mechanism to access the local government corporate responsibility. Although the Sukabumi City government has shown commitment to transparency and implementation, still face challenge from both internal and external factors.
Internally, the Sukabumi City government has established and activated EPID and uses digital platforms such as official websites to disseminate information. Sukabumi City has also received the Innovative City Award that share institutional commitment to transparency. However, challenges remain in data updates, information consistency, and public awareness of PPID services.
Externally, demands for transparency have increased due to technological development, media oversight, and the role of civil society. National regulation and evaluation by the Information Commission also ensure the local government to continuously improve the quality of public information service.
The issue of public information discourse in Sukabumi City involves several stakeholders. The local government acts as the information provider, the public as information user, and a public institution ensure compliance with regulation. Civil society organizations and the media also play important roles in strengthening transparency and accountability.
Evidence and data in 2023. The PPID of Sukabumi City records 17 public information requests, with 16 requests granted and none rejected. This shows that the public information service mechanism function effectively in accordance with the law. Additionally, Sukabumi City received the Informative City Award in 2023 during the monitoring and evaluation of public information disclosure at the West Java provincial level. National data also indicate the Sukabumi City Public Information Openness Index has been updated annually from 2020 to 2024, showing consistent efforts to maintain transparency.
Theory. From the perspective of good governance theory, transparency and accountability depend on a principle in public administration. Transparency raises the information assessmentary between government and citizens. Building trust improves policy effectiveness and minimizes the misuse of power.
Here's examples. So concrete example of transparency implementation in Sukabumi City is the achievement of the informative city award. This recognition was based on information availability, effective PPID management, and the use of digital media. This case shows that Sukabumi City has met important indicators of public information disclosure, although continuous improvement is still needed.
Lava solution. To strengthen transparency and accountability, the Sukabumi City government should focus on improving the quality of public information service. Transparency should not only be about opening data, but also about ensuring that information is accessible, understandable, and relevant. Increasing public awareness and participation is also essential to ensure sustainable transparency.
As students of public administration, drug or academic journey, we are introduced to first public policy promoted by the government in every stage of public policy making, from formalization to implementation and accountability reporting. There are important indicators that must be followed, especially transparency and accountability. These two principles are essential to ensure the public policy truly serve the public interest.
However, in practice, these principles are not always implemented effectively. One of the biggest challenges in achieving good governance is corruption within public institutions. Corruption weakens administrative system, damages public service, and gradually erodes public trust in government institutions. Therefore, in this video, we will discuss the corruption prevention strategies in public institutions by exploring the meaning of corruption, why this issue matters, its background cause, key stakeholders, supporting data, relevant theories, a case example, and also possible solutions.
Background. Corruption or also referred to action committed by public officials such as politicians or the city servant or other employment parties who illegally and improperly abuse public trust for personal or group benefit. In general, corruption includes a dishonest action that misuse authority, power, or position to get unfair advantages for oneself or others. The term corruption originates from the Latin word corruption or corruptus, which means rotted, damaged, distorted, and grieved. Over time, this term evolved into corruption in English and French, corruption in Dutch, and corruption in Indonesia. Literally, corruption refers moral delay, dishonest, immorally, bribery, and deviation from natural values.
Why matter? This issue matters because corruption is a long-standing structural problem that has hindered development in many countries, including Indonesia. Corruption does not only reflect weak integrity and accountability among public officials, but also severely damage economic foundations and weakness social inequality. In the context of economic development, corruption threats market distribution, weakness efficient resource distribution, and reduce public and investor trust in the government.
According to Transparency International, Indonesia still ranks at a concerning position in the Corruption Perception Index. This condition indicates that corruption remains serious threat to economic stability and public welfare. In the economic sector, corruption often appears in the form of bribery, budget, embezzlement, abuse of power in public procurement, and nepotism, protect allocation. As a result, public funds that should be used for infrastructure, education, healthcare, and basic public service are misused or even disabled without benefiting society.
The background of corruption is influenced by various internal and external factors. Internally, corruption is driven by personal greed and the feeling of never having enough. A concept of lifestyle can also become a strong motivation for corrupt behavior. In addition, weak moral policies make individuals more vulnerable to corruption, especially when they hold position of power.
Externally, corruption is influenced by social, political, legal, economic, and organizational factors. Social pressure can push individuals to commit corruption to meet expectation or maintain status. In politics, money politics often becomes a major issue, such as vote buying or political reward for certain groups. From a legal perspective, weak law enforcement, unclear regulation, and multi-interpretative legal articles create loopholes that benefit certain parties. And economically, corruption is not only committed by low-income individuals, but often by wealthy and highly educated elites. Organizationally, collusion among officials with accountability system and poor management control further enable corrupt practice.
Key stakeholder the corruption case include high institutions such as executive bodies and local and central levels, ministries of the constitution, producers, and the police, as well as legislative bodies like regional and national parliament. Other stakeholders include the private sector, non-governmental organizations, civil society, and academic institutions. All of these actors can play roles in the preventing corruption or directly or indirectly contributing to it.
In terms of evidence, data from the Corruption Eradication Commission or KPK show that during the first semester of 2025, KPK received 2,273 public complaints related to alleged corruption. Of these reports, 254 were declared incomplete after verification and 103 cases involve bribery allegation. This data highlights that corruption remains a serious and ongoing problem that requires system solution.
Practical perspective, corruption can be analyzed through the lens of good governance theory, which emphasizes transparency, accountability, participation, rule of law, and integrity. When these principles are weak or absent, corruption is more likely to occur. Institutional theory also explains that weak institutions and poor enforcement mechanism create environment where corrupt behavior becomes normalized.
However, KPK stated that during the investigation, no witnesses mentioned his involvement. Additionally, the case had already entered the trial phase, limiting the possibility of summoning no witness. This case illustrates the importance of transparency, public oversight, and clear legal protocols in